Welcome to the BCEQ mini conference, which is like our mid-year conference. And I just wanted to say a few things. This is being recorded and streamed on Zoom. And so we should make sure that we have one person at a time speak so that it's clear what's going on. I just have a few things to let you know what's going on. We have a QR code. We're going to have a whole bunch of people talk, and it's going to be 15 minutes at a time, and they may speak for 10 minutes. They may speak a little longer, and we won't have that much time to talk about questions and stuff. So we have a QR code that Daniel will put up later. You don't have to do it now, but it looks like this, and I'll circulate a few of them around. And in there, you can make any comments you want on any one of the people who are speaking or anything else that's of interest. And if you go over the 15 minutes, I'm going to have a little sign that I'm going to let you know when you're halfway gone. That'll be like, that's 5 minutes in, and then leave the 5 minutes. You'll speak for 10 minutes, but in the middle, I'll tell you when it's in the middle. And when you have 1 minute, 2 minutes, 1 minute, a half a minute, and then, you know, the bell will ring and you should stop. And I want to thank our sponsors, which is Fordham University, which they're not here, but this is a lovely place. And Edison, who always helps us with these conferences. We try to save some paper, so there is a general agenda, but it's pretty general. And now I would like to start. Robert, are you going to do the lightning round?
Sure. Yeah.
I'm going to do the timing.
Okay.
So our first person on the lightning round is Jenn Beaugrand, and she's a member of the board of directors, and she's also the executive director for the Bronx is Blooming. Come on up here. It's better if the sound is. Yes.
You have to leave this open?
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jen. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Are we good?
Go ahead.
Am I too loud?
No, you're good. You're good. We want to make sure that the folks can see the whole. I think
That's fine.
have the person.
Sorry, Jen.
All good.
All right.
We good? Okay. Aaron asked me if I would speak, and then I imagine take some questions about. Am I already at the halfway point?
Sorry.
If I would speak about our amazing transformational grant that we got through the USDA Forest Service as part of the Inflation Reduction Act. The Bronx is Blooming applied and received the only community-based organization in New York City for $5 million over the next 5 years to plant and steward trees. It's an urban and community forestry grant. So we will be planting and stewarding trees and doing environmental education specifically focused around trees and tree stewardship. We have a hybrid neighborhood focus as a piece of our grant. We actually applied for 7.8 million. And so we are still waiting to meet with the Forest Service to talk about where they see us cutting $3 million out of our budget and what that looks like. But we are very excited. We are currently a staff of 3 full-time people. And this is going to be just an amazing opportunity for us organizationally, but more for our community to do a lot more tree stewardship. As I said, we have a hybrid neighborhood focus with this grant. So as part of our program, as part of the grant, we will be expanding our program overall. We do a lot of youth leadership development, and we are looking to probably about double the size of our youth leadership program in the next 5 years. This summer, we served 96 students and 10 mentors and worked in 9 parks with 10 groups. Providing, I believe, over the summer, the equivalent of 5 full-time staff for the year. And we stewarded, I don't remember for the summer exactly how many trees we stewarded, but to date, we've stewarded probably close to 20,000 trees. I'm going to say 16,000 plus trees, but I think we're heading towards 20,000 very quickly. And it will allow us to work in more neighborhoods with more communities and more students. And the hybrid focus is allowing us to partner with, I know many of you know them, Trees New York, and New Settlement, to work with schools in the Highbridge community to help with stewardship and advocating for more tree planting in the community. And that will look like caring for existing tree beds, but also looking for spaces where there are trees missing, and having students learn how to request a new street tree and then having them help take care of those. In terms of our youth leadership program, our program runs every summer. It's a 10-week program over the summer. We do a little bit over a month of training for Bronx college age mentors. And then, and that's in the month of June. And then in July, we partner with organizations that partner with the Summer Youth Employment Program. And we hire students who come out and work with us. And part of our mission and vision is that when we started, the SYAP program was 14 to really focused on 14 to 18, and it grew to 14 to 24, and now it's more 16 to 24. But we try and have college visits for everyone, 2 to 3 college visits for every student who comes through our program. We do environmental justice lessons, as well as connecting students to environmental activities and people who help teach them to our students. So we have a horticulturalist on staff now. She was part-time this season and is looking to come back next season to help take care of the 35 plus garden beds that we have planted and or care for throughout our parks. Most of them we have planted at this point. And we, as part of our environmental mission, we plant native species. And so we have planted over 14 or 16,000 native species in our parks. And in the last couple of years, we've really gotten into planting trees as part of a partnership with the Arbor Day Foundation and their environmental justice grants. And we are continuing to do that. I am open for questions. I can talk more, but I think it's better if I answer questions that people might have with the time that we have. If anybody has any questions. Yes, Chrissy.
Are you going to seek partnerships with other organizations to, bring in any kind of content? I'm thinking pollinators in particular. I work with the New York City Pollinator Working Group, as well as Butterfly Project New York City. And, those are grassroots organizations that work in all boroughs, but a lot of our focus has been in the Bronx. So I'm just curious.
So the answer is yes. As I think I said, we have 13 partners that we went into this partnership with. And 2 of those partners were funded partners. The other partners were schools and other groups that were looking for partnership for other reasons. One of our partnerships is we have a couple of landowners who are interested in partnering. So we're not only looking at planting trees on park property, but also school property where possible and private land. This grant is very focused on trees and urban community forestry. That doesn't mean there aren't trees that are also for pollinators. And I think we are definitely going to be looking to plant trees for pollinators. Part of the grant is also tree giveaways. So it's both planting trees, but also giving trees away to the community. So there are a number of over 3,000 trees. I don't know what the end numbers will be as we cut down, but somewhere around 3,000 trees that will be given away in the community as well. So I think, in my opinion, the more partners that we can have to help create a better urban canopy for our community, and especially one that's made with native trees that are going to support local pollinators, bird populations, and everyone else, the better off we are.
I was thinking in terms of education, most people don't think of pollinators when you hear trees,
Trees, absolutely.
but they are
They're a huge tree
extremely important for pollinators, probably the most important.
because they have the largest space that they take up and the largest lifespan. So yes, absolutely. Would love to talk to you about that. Karen,
Jen, would you like to tell us something about your background?
about my background?
Yes,
Like how I started the Bronx is Blooming or how I started in the Bronx. So I am a native New Yorker, grew up downtown in the city in the 80s and 90s. And when I grew up, I went to school near Central Park, and I think Central Park looked worse than some of our city parks do now when I was growing up and going there. Or, you know, at least I would say equivalent, but probably worse. I was involved a lot in youth development and wanted to have something a little bit more, and wanted something a little bit more creative, I should say, for myself. And so I became a landscape designer. But then I was going to become a landscape architect and decided that I learned that a lot of landscape architects knew nothing about plants, and they picked their plants based on, you know, which bubbles they like to draw the most. That was, you know, what was shared with me. And so I decided I should probably learn a little bit more about plants if I was going to have such an impact on landscapes and putting plants in the ground. I worked for a variety of different places, but ended up in the Parks Department through a neighborhood parks initiative in 2005 and 6, where I met Dart, who would then tell me that I did not at all want to continue in the method I was planning and should instead change my life's work completely and work in the Bronx. And I will say probably more than Dart, he probably maybe pushed me in the path of creating a nonprofit. But I think more than Dart, I would say the sense of community that I found in the neighborhood that I worked in the Bronx at such a quick level of acceptance. I felt such a quick level of acceptance when I worked for the Parks Department. I was assigned to the Williamsbridge Oval in the Northwest Bronx. And 2 weeks in, the deputy parks commissioner came to like surprise me and see what I was doing. And I was building a flower bed, and one of the people in the neighborhood, you know, was coming into the park, and he was like, "Oh, Jen, I brought you the eggplant parmesan that I promised that you could try." And the deputy commissioner looked at me and he was like, "How long did you say you had been here?" And I was like, 2 weeks, 2 weeks. And I think that sense of community, and I think on multiple sides, right? There's the sense of community of the people who wanted to get involved right away. But I think the challenge was the people who were like, came up to me in my Parks uniform with my Parks logo, like right front and center. Like I was clearly a Parks employee, and said to me, "Why are you bothering? Nothing lasts. People destroy everything." And I felt that, you know, from what I had seen in different neighborhoods throughout the city, I worked in Brownsville in 2001, and a field was a slab of asphalt, like, well, it was rolled out asphalt with like patches of tar that stuck to your shorts, and like made the heat brutal. And it seemed like there were ways that we could make things more beautiful. And when I first started The Bronx is Blooming, somebody told me that, you know, who cared about beauty in other people's communities, and like who was going to fund that? And, you know, you get a lot of different responses from funders and from other people. And we are now an environmental organization, but I think the core piece of our mission is youth and community engagement and ownership, as well as the creation of beauty. The use of native plants or non-native plants, you can create beauty. And so like what we do is try and create beauty for communities so that every kid has a beautiful flower bed to walk past in the morning, and every human who lives in a community has some beauty that they see every day. And planting trees will help with so many pieces of that, and cool temperatures and do all the things, but trees are also very beautiful. Yes.
any of the trees being planted fruit trees?
Are any of the trees that we are going to plant fruit trees? Yes, where possible, where native, we will. Asimina triloba, so the eastern pawpaw is something that I can think of that I would like to see more of.
Those myself, so I'm very fond of them.
There you go. There was a whole article, if you didn't see it in the New York Times a week or two ago, about the king of pawpaws in Brooklyn, this guy who, yeah, exactly. This guy who grows them in his backyard. We do amelanchiers, which is also known as serviceberry or Juneberry. Juneberry because they fruit in June, and their fruits are, if you haven't tried them, I fight the birds for them every June. They look kind of like a cranberry in color when they're ripe, and they taste like but look like a blueberry. And they're very delicious. I definitely recommend trying them. So there will be definitely some fruit trees in our portfolio of things that we're planting, but we're doing a lot of restoration work now at Soundview with planting, and a lot of this planting will continue to take place at Soundview Park, because if we're planting trees in parks, we need a park where there's actually space, and Soundview has a giant field of mugwort and ailanthus trees and Japanese knotweed, and we just see it as a great opportunity to provide a lot of pollutant filtering trees for our community. Am I done, Karen, or do you want me to take another question, or you want me to be done? I can do either.
Question, she has one other question.
Hi,
Hi.
and you may have answered this. I came in a little bit late, and if so, then you saved yourself the question. But what have you done to change your focus to accommodate for the wild fluctuations we could expect because of the climate emergency?
What have we done? Well, I think we're working on slowly creating more habitat that will absorb stormwater, like source point stormwater absorption, right? And as we change a space from being a mugwort field into a forest, I think it will have even more of an impact. And, I think trees help with cooling temperatures, not just for where they're planted, but when you create a lot of them, it can really have an impact on the communities around them. So I think those are things that we are doing. And I think we have really shifted into a focus on not just, for years, we have not had the staff, and we have stewarded trees in the urban canopy. And we've done that for the last 13 years, but now that we have have received the resources in the past few years, we've started planting trees. And so I think that is what I would say, that we are helping to do that.
I'm gonna ask one more, sorry.
But wait. So we have a heavy schedule. You can ask all your questions on the QR code, and there's one there for each topic. The next speaker, do I have to go?
Thank you, Jenn.
Is another tree person, but she's gonna talk about open space. Jane Sokolow.
I am.
Is a member of our board of directors, and she sits on the New York State Open Space,
Advisory Committee.
yes, with DEC and Parks Department.
So the Open Space Conservation Plan is the comprehensive state plan that describes the current open space sort of goals and actions and tools and resources administered by the state, federal agencies, and conservation nonprofits. It was first instituted in 1992, and it's really basically the blueprint for the state's open space program. So it guides the investment of land protection funds from the Environmental Protection Fund. As required by law, they have to update it periodically. The last time it was updated was in 2016, and this year they are again updating it. It's got sort of a lofty set of goals that they try to stick with: protect water quality, provide accessible open space for outdoor recreation, protect wildlife habitats, improve the quality of life and health in our communities, maintain critical natural resource-based they call them industries, which I kind of laugh at, but what they're talking about is agriculture and the forest products industry. To address climate change through forest, wetland, and riparian area stewardship, and community planning, to provide places for education and research, and to protect and enhance scenic, historic, and cultural resources. There are 9 regions in the state of New York. Each has its own advisory committee, and each committee in the past has met at least 3 times for maybe half a day to discuss projects and parcels of land that might receive funding to protect. Of the $4.2 billion in the 2022 Bond Act, $650 million of that is allocated for open space, land conservation, and recreation. So that's $650 million between the 9 regions of New York. At the same time that the Bond Act was passed, the state passed something called the 30/30 Act, with the goal to conserve 30% of lands, inland waters, and coastal and ocean areas by 2030. Currently, 19 to 20% of the state is under conservation. So we got 10% to go. And again, the goals are pretty similar: restore biodiversity throughout habitat, collaborate with tribal partners, ensure public involvement, increase climate change resilience, and expand equitable outdoor access. Historically, Region 2 has not received any or very little of the Environmental Protection Fund money for land acquisition. It's just the way it's been. Despite this, remarkably, a fair amount of land has been acquired, basically due to the resourcefulness of state agencies and the many partners working in Region 2 through federal grants, private financing, environmental benefit funds from consent decree orders, and legal settlements. And the partners and the agencies in this include the New York City Department of Parks and Recreation, the Port Authority, and the Trust for Public Land. So I'm going to do my best as a committee member this year to see if we can get some money into Region 2. When we last updated the plan, it was right after Hurricane Sandy, or shortly after, and really resiliency was a really big priority. I imagine that will continue to be a priority given the weather in the last couple of years. In addition to that, there was a list of suggested properties that I'm going to encourage them to list again. Most of them, one of them was the exterior street property, the Brush Avenue property, and about 6 properties in Mott Haven. I think on that QR code, there's a place, if any of you have some thoughts on lands that could be preserved in the Bronx, let me know. We have not met yet. We are meeting next week for the first time. So, you know, anything you can think of. I mean, we had the Greenway on there. I mean, I've got my own list of things along the Harlem River I would love to see taken out of the hands that it's currently in and put into conservation, but whether or not we can prevail on that, I don't know. I'm happy to take questions.
Are you only talking about privately owned land?
Oh, no. No, it's
How big are you thinking in terms of
this
parcels?
whatever. I mean, they in the Adirondacks, they've acquired quite a bit of land, and some of the parcels that have been put into conservation in the city, despite not getting money from this, have been very small. I mean, they've been pocket parks, they've been pieces of land that are, you know, sort of no man's land between railroad tracks and highways, you know. I mean, the more land we can keep from being paved over, the better. Bob, and then Jen.
There's a question over
Oh.
there, and then we could.
If I may, you had spoke about regions. Can you elaborate a little bit on the regions and how they're outlaid?
Well, Region 2 is the 5 boroughs of New York City.
Mhm.
Region 1 is Long Island. Region 3 is Westchester
And Putnam.
and Putnam, right? 4 includes the Catskills. I don't know quite how the rest of them are divided up, but they're sort of divided. You know, when I looked at that map originally, I thought, who made these decisions?
Okay, thank you.
You know, it's a little bit arbitrary, but you know, each DEC has offices in every region. They have a whole regional office. So, you know,
Yeah, I was just curious. Thank you.
Yeah, I live in the state of New Jersey and a lot of the land, the open space, New Jersey has a lot of open space land that they purchased through the freeholders in the state of New Jersey. They're the ones who purchased the land that, you know, environmental and all that stuff for the, you know, safekeeping of our animals and stuff.
yeah, well, there are lots of groups in New York State that acquire land. I mean, the Open Space Institute, the Trust for Public Land, put it in conservation, which makes the fact that Region 2 does not get a lot of that money sort of odd.
Right?
You know, I mean, it's pretty easy to save the Adirondacks and the Catskills, right? I mean, everybody wants to
That's
have
a lot
a
of
big
land.
open state park,
A lot of
right?
land.
Okay, Bob.
yeah, can we hear your wish list, Jane, about open space?
Those are the
acquisitions?
regions.
Um,
Oh, good.
oh,
I
yeah.
just want to say before you talk about that, if you do that QR code, there's a link to BCEQ's webpage where you have the presentation that was adopted in 2000. We did it, she did it in 2013, and it was adopted.
In 2016, right, yeah.
And there's also a link to DEC about how they do that, so you can get more information just by going on the QR code, and you can give us any of your questions that maybe you didn't get answered, and we'll try to figure out how to get the answers. back to you.
Yeah, Bob, I don't really have my own personal wish list, and it's sort of odd speaking about this without having had the committee meet once. Because I'm always interested to see what comes to the table and what's actually possible. And I'm sorry Michael's not here, because I know he and I have talked about a lot of, I mean, that the piece on Exterior Street, I think is that piece at the bottom. That I think they just want to, you know, and I know at one point I emailed somebody at the Bronx River Alliance about the whole problem with the boat, that your storage shed, because I thought, you know, if there's any land in there that could be added to the list, I'm happy to put it forward to the committee.
I mean, that is public land. It's just, the politics of it.
That doesn't mean that it can't be conserved for use for public recreation, which is basically what you're using it for. I know it's storage, but it's,
Is that below 140?
That's.
Is it Parks Department land?
It is part of that a little, I
yeah,
think it's quite too relevant to this
Yeah.
conversation.
Jane, do you, when you start out, are you gonna assess the last open space plan and kind of do a progress report of what's been acquired and what's still remaining from the previous plan?
well, nothing was acquired last time around in the city of New York. So our list is pretty much the same. The question is, and I haven't really followed up enough to see if there were things that were acquired by other means,
Okay,
because that's, you know. And
could you?
Jen had a question first.
I was gonna suggest, and I don't have any specific location, but I was gonna suggest places in, you know, the Central Park Conservancy did a study a couple of years ago where they found that, I think one of the findings were from that were that people in the South Bronx, in lots of communities in the South Bronx, with the closing of playgrounds, of New York City playgrounds during COVID, had no access to
Yeah.
parks. So I would think spaces like in areas like that to find places where you can make pocket non-playgrounds so that they wouldn't be closed in the kind of emergency like they were during COVID. So
Right.
people would still have access to green space who otherwise would not have access to green space.
Yeah, that's, I mean, I followed up a lot on that when that happened, and the problem is that there's not a lot of that kind of,
Not have space
there's
there.
not a lot of space.
I'm just thinking,
Yeah,
like if there are
Yeah.
vacant lots
Yeah.
or city-owned lots that could be.
well, one of the problems with the city-owned lots is they're not willing to let them go to anything because they think they might want to put affordable housing on them. Which is always a big issue. I mean, I know a couple of things have come up and I've said, well, why don't we just turn that into a community garden or an open park while it's just sitting there? And I don't know, we can't do that. We might need it. Art, did you have a question?
Just that we should probably get together and come up with a list. You know, from previous things and.
Yeah, I have, well, the list from 2013 is still
That's,
available. That's in the report. So, I mean, I'm taking that with me, obviously, to the meeting. And I know Michael, I think I mean, all the Mott Haven stuff, he's
yeah. and the
still
Harlem stuff
anxious.
was The year you and I went together.
Right. There were,
If we could compile it, even that, if you said, if you would send me those things so I don't forget. I think we can put together a wish list of stuff that's as big as it could be.
Right.
You know, and see where we go from there.
yeah, the last time was interesting when we went with that wish list. It's very interesting how the DEC and even state parks can come up with a reason why that's not going to be a priority, which infuriates me, but.
Right, so then then we need a strategy, we
Right.
can talk about it some
Right.
other time,
Right.
we should start.
Right.
Since we're trying to expand the Parks Committee beyond just thinking about Speak Up, which is a wonderful thing.
Right.
There's other agenda items that we
Right.
have, funding for the Parks Department and getting more parks. So if we can.
Jared, I would be interested in joining that.
Say again?
Yeah.
I would be interested if you guys.
I mean, I can send that. Karen, is the 2016 report on the
Yes.
website?
On the QR code, if anybody can't do that afterwards, when we have a little break, I can help you do your QR code. On the QR code, under open space, there's two links. One link leads you to BCEQ's page, which has just the part about New York City.
Right.
And the other one has the whole state. It's much nicer to read about New York City, so that's why I put it up that way.
And you don't even have to read about the whole city. If
And
you go
then
to
there
the,
was our list of priorities that we put together at the Speak Up that we had in 2013.
so if you go to the appendix, that's the Bronx. You can skip the rest of it
You
and
could
see
do
what,
that,
yeah,
right.
see what's there. It's pretty, I mean, I looked at that list and I thought to myself, did any of this happen? But I think some of the smaller pieces may in fact either no longer be available or may have been purchased with different funds.
Yeah, like Tibbetts Brook is on the list,
Right,
and we don't know if the state contributed any money from it. We just don't know what the combination of the funding is.
right. Because once we didn't get Environmental Protection Act money, everybody jumped in with other partnerships. I mean, I think TPL helped with that a little bit, so it's just, it's hard to tell. And we had an orientation meeting and I kind of asked if we could get a list of what actually had been accomplished since 2013 or 16, but I didn't get much of an answer back.
Okay, our next speaker is Jeffrey Laufer. And he's our newest board member. And he is a representative from Con Edison in addition. And he's going to talk to us about ways to conserve energy and also a little bit news from Con Ed.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Welcome. My name is Jeffrey Laufer. I'm a corporate affairs manager for Con Ed, dealing with the region of the Bronx. The Con Ed is, for those that don't know, Con Ed has the territories of the 5 boroughs, Westchester County, as well as Rockland and Orange. We are a service provider. In the Bronx, we have gas and electric. Some boroughs only have gas. I'm sorry, some boroughs only have electric, like in Brooklyn. And in Manhattan, they actually have steam as well. So they have gas, electric, and steam commodities. Excuse me. Before coming to Con Edison, I was actually an employee of the Bronx Borough President's Office. So I'm very familiar with the work and the dedication that groups like this have, and a lot of familiar faces in the room. It's funny, the first presenter talked a lot about trees. One of my first jobs out of college was working for the community board. And one of the biggest requests I got while working for the community board was, how can I get a free street tree application? At the time, I don't know if Parks is still doing it, but at the time Parks was really invested in planting trees throughout, individual neighborhoods. So that was like I'd say at least 3 or 4 times a day I got questions about how can I get that application and, how can you help me fill it out? So it brought me back when we were discussing that in the beginning. So Con Edison, besides being an energy provider, also manages grants to a lot of nonprofits. Grants, organizations such as this one, such as the Bartopel Mansion up in the Pelham Bay section of the Bronx, such, groups such as Woodlawn Conservancy, Rockin' the Boat, even groups like, what was another one that we have? The Bronx Zoo, the Botanical Garden, Wave Hill. So there's a lot of, so our footprint is very heavy in the Bronx. And actually, I can't discuss it right now, but we have a couple of interesting announcements, some that are very close to home, that we're going to be announcing in the coming months about some more, investments we're doing in the borough. So I'm sure everybody will be excited for that. One of the things that we're constantly getting asked is how can individuals save money on their bill? And one of the things we administer is a clean energy program. If you buy smart thermostats, even smart air purifiers, you get either rebates, sometimes directly, sometimes indirectly, straight from the company. And again, these go to both the individual homeowner, they go to tenants, they go to small and medium-sized businesses, they go to larger businesses. So we run the gamut from small, medium to large in terms of our investment, in terms of our help and our efforts to clean the planet. Another aspect that we're really pushing is it's called the Energy Efficiency Program, where we go out to small and medium businesses, we do analysis, we figure out ways that we can help make their business more energy efficient. We offer incentives on certain products, and we really go from top to bottom and sort of figure out a way to make small and medium businesses a better neighbor for the borough. And finally, one thing that I don't know if anybody noticed, but over the weekend we had a big announcement. We had the core program, which is the new account system that everybody's getting. So our previous account system, for those that don't know, goes back to the 1980s. It was actually the green IBM computer systems that some people may be familiar with. That was the previous accounting system that we used to manage everybody's accounts. Well, we recently upgraded to a core system, which allows us to have a more targeted and a more nuanced approach to outages, to spikes in meterings and things like that. We'll definitely be able to get on the ground a lot quicker and be able to triage any issues a lot faster with this new system. So again, it just got rolled out this past weekend, and we're sort of getting new and acquainted with the new system. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to take some.
I have one. As a Bronx resident, how important is the energy ratings that every building has?
So the energy rating is actually not done by us. That's done by the Department of Buildings.
Okay.
But we obviously help try to make buildings as energy efficient as possible. One of the things, even though Con Ed, their territory goes past New York City, we still have to comply with the local laws of New York City. So like local law 97 that I know everybody's pretty familiar with, we're still adopting and we're still getting prepared for when that gets enacted. So, even though the territories go further than this building and this borough, we still have to comply with all the city ordinances and things like that.
You speak of the air filters.
Mhm.
During the time that the smoke was coming down from Canada,
Mm-hmm.
were we as individual citizens eligible for air filters at that time?
Yeah, the program's been out for,
Heard nothing about it. It wasn't something that was advertised or made available to people. I have a daughter that lives in California, and she ordered an air filter for me in my apartment, and it made quite a difference.
Oh my God, it made a huge difference.
well,
It's amazing.
to know how, I can't speak for whether how useful the program would have been for that at that time, but I will say something. A lot of companies get pressure, and a lot of people throw companies under the bus, and they're not, fair to workers. I will say, and I'm a new employee. When the poor air quality was in effect, Con Edison completely shut down any work that was done. other than emergency response systems to, gas leaks and things of that nature. So the company really takes safety is a paramount. Every time we have a meeting, even a meeting like this, if this was a Con Edison meeting, we'd start the meeting with the safety message, whether it's noticing the emergency exits, whether, ways you can deduct, can tell if there's a gas leak. There's always a safety component to everything that we do. So, even at that time when, obviously the summer months are peak work season, the company completely shut down from from doing repairs and things like that, unless there were emergencies.
In the beginning, maybe I missed something, but you spoke about Con Edison's grant program.
Yeah.
What's the Con Edison grant giving program like?
So Con Edison has a program called Power of Giving, where we give over, I believe it's $12 million to 600 nonprofits in New York City and Westchester. And some of them I mentioned, this organization, Rocking the Boat, and there are others that are not just environmental, but the pillars that we now currently fund are for arts and culture, civics, community partnerships, education, and environmental.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And you also have programs that we can go to on how to be a better nonprofit. Those meetings that they have?
That we're always having seminars, we're always encouraging that our employees are better neighbors and better stewardships. For instance, they highly encourage employees joining nonprofits and, joining boards and being more civic minded. We're just trying to be a better overall employer and employee, because obviously that's the only way that, we can help and work together to make this planet healthier and more efficient from an energy standpoint.
Yeah, we are very interested in energy reduction because even though renewable energy mandates from the state promise to decarbonize, there are still non-source sources of electricity that could change our land use and impact communities who are close to the source. So we're very sensitive to that. So we really, we've been very involved with NIPA power plants, with the new Tier 4 energy recs for increased renewable energy production. And we always wonder, are we just growing the pie with renewable energy, or are we actually reducing usage? So we really don't want to grow the pie because we think that'll just create more energy infrastructure that could harm our people and our environment. So if Con Ed was to offer that mechanism in the hands of consumers, let's say, because you're consumer facing, what have you determined is the most effective energy reduction alternative that consumers can adopt? If you could tell us one thing that would reduce energy usage from a consumer, let's say either a co-op, a multifamily or a single family, what would that be?
Well, I mean, just speaking from a personal perspective, not from a company perspective, I'm still pretty relatively new, but I'll say something that I always found interesting, that, and I'm guilty of it, right? It's a hot day, it's 90 degrees, we go into our apartment, we go into our home. What do? We immediately put the thermostat down to 60 degrees, but we're comfortable when it's 76 degrees. So why is it that we drop the thermostat so low? We don't need it to be 60 degrees to be comfortable. If it was 70, today it's 70 degrees outside, nobody was sweating, nobody was, nobody was perspiring unless you were running a lot. But why is it that we don't apply that same logic and that same thought mindset to our own homes and our own, energy conservation? We're like an instant gratification where we just, we have to get things done right away. And it's like I said, if you set your air conditioning, and actually, I've been told that if you set your thermostat or your air conditioner 76 degrees, you won't even really get a spike in your energy usage that many people experience in the summer months. So it's little habits like that if we all took part in it, it'd go a long way.
Okay, so we want you to keep working for them. We like you, rather, so we won't spread that around. That's one.
Can I do a random follow-up on Bob's question? Does Con Ed have any capacity, like Joyce and I live in the same building and we have no, you turn on the air conditioning goes on, you can pick low, medium, high. Like, can Con Ed work with buildings somehow to make it so that people can set their thermometers to 76 instead of just turning them on low?
You know, I assume if the individual management company reached out, we probably offer programs like that. I will say a lot of time, you know, not necessarily from an air conditioning standpoint, and it's weird hearing all the cheers. I'm not that popular. But you know, I know a lot of times on the reciprocal side with heat, a lot of buildings that get, you know, the New York City requires heat to be a certain level in the winter. And obviously there's some bad landlords that don't even meet that standard. But there are landlords that meet the standard. And when it's hot, rather than turning off the radiator, people open the window. So, you know, so.
I understand what you're saying, but it's personal accountability.
Yeah, so there's that aspect as well. I don't know, you know, I don't know. I mean, if a management company or a landlord reached out and said, you know, I manage a business, I'm looking to do individual thermostats and where residents can control it. The problem is that a lot of times big buildings, there's common electrical charges that sometimes get shared and things like that. So it gets a little tricky sometimes, but you know, there might be a possibility to look at something like that.
Yeah, I'm curious on the kind of low cost energy frame. It's kind of looking at any way at geothermal.
Mhm.
Because that would be, there's 6,000 miles of roadway. There's a fair amount of space for this kind of thing. If one did it, no one could do it systematically, especially in the outer boroughs and all of this.
Yeah, no, it's definitely something we're looking at. We actually had there were a few big clean energy announcements around that over the summer. I believe one in Brooklyn. That was was a big, you know, big pilot project. We're definitely looking to replicate some of those things in the Bronx and some of the other boroughs that didn't get to experience it. But you know, I can't let you in too much on the day-to-day stuff, but I will say I was on a meeting today where geothermal was discussed and aspects of that.
Possible for Con Ed to do outreach to actually developers and see if you can get that in front end, because that drops the energy cost. Even though you still would be moving air and so on, it's way lower than anything else you can do. The geothermal battery of the earth, far larger than solar energy or anything else that you could get to.
Well, you know, I'm not an engineer or a scientist, but I will say there was something that I took from a meeting I had today where dropping the temperature, like instead of the temperature increasing 3 degrees, but only increasing 1.5 or 2 degrees would go a long way. And so a lot of that is around what you're talking about.
Yeah, looking especially at the outreach to developers, or you do anything like that.
We definitely do.
Okay, thank you. And don't forget, everybody's little topic is on the QR code and you can make your other comments in there and find information about Con Edison. There's a link there for that.
Thank you so much.
Our next speaker is President Robert Fanuzzi. And he's going to talk about protecting Parkland.
Thank you, Karen.
Nice.
And I'm here to talk a little bit about what we did this summer. And we did not expect to be in the middle of our really third fight to protect Parkland, or fourth or fifth. But if you may have heard, the mayor of the city of New York put the force of his office behind a proposal from an international cricket league to build a temporary cricket stadium with the capacity of 34,000 people in the corner of the parade ground of Van Cortlandt Park. So this was mind-boggling to people when we first heard. It really did take a majority of our summer and into the fall to defeat this proposal. I would just like to say that Bronx Council of Environmental Quality was immediately first out of the gate to reject this. There were tepid responses, even shocked almost feelings of privilege that we were considered for such a thing. We had no such vanity response that an international league would want to come to Van Cortlandt Park. We immediately recognized this as absolutely wrong. So Karen's antenna picked this up and she alerted our board immediately. And just for the record, we're the organization that gathered the nonprofit community to oppose this, that eventually gave elected officials the power to say no, and lining up as they did. It was a really significant victory for us. So I wanted to tell you about the kind of lessons that we've learned. Before I go into this, I did want to ask you, have our questions about this or response to this right away. If you were involved in this, what lesson did you learn? There were some incredible dynamics happening through this. I bring it up because BCEQ, we are part rapid response, and we have we respond to emergencies. And when we're doing things like this, we often think, you know, we're always going to be imprisoned into crisis response. But in looking back, it really made me think about our role as stewards of Parkland, our mission to protect and grow green space. So I've really become committed to this as something that has renewed our purpose, okay, and that I would like to continue for the Speak Up in 2024, because for a long time, because of the atrophying of public funding for the parks, volunteers have really been the ones that have added luster to our public parkland. And it was very plain to me and others that the volunteer labor, the free labor that had made Van Cortlandt Park the jewel was attractive enough for an international league to come and take it. The city decided they could leverage that love and that care and that volunteer hours for a profit-seeking venture to actually replenish some lost revenue using that volunteer labor. So this really made me aware of the relationship between nonprofit conservancies, alliances, and the Parks Department. And it also made me think, you know, we have got to let our park users become as informed about the rights of Parkland and the rights of the public to Parkland as we are. So I wanted to kind of step back and give us a little bit of a primer about some of the words you may have heard in the media about why this was a non-starter from a legal and legislative point of view. All right. So, but I also wanted to tell you about what we were supposed to do this summer, and that was to engage with MTA. So I'm going to split my time, Karen, please, at 7-8 minutes on this one. Then I want to move over into MTA because I want to have it both ways. I want to tell you what we did this summer. Then I tell you our new project of working with MTA. All right. So I thought it would be helpful. Yeah. All right. So you may have heard these terms, and I just wanted to give everyone this kind of handle to go by. Okay. And the very first thing that makes everyone a protector of Parkland is understanding this concept of alienation. Okay. And this is a state policy that's administered by the State Department of Parks that they have derived from various lawsuits that organizations like Friends of Van Cortlandt Park, and even BCEQ have been party to. Okay. And the concept of alienation is so cool that public parkland is inalienable. Okay. It cannot be used for any other purpose than for the recreational enjoyment of the public, unless there is an act of the sovereign of the state, okay, to decide to reassess or recategorize that parkland. Okay, so alienation really always requires a legislative decision. Okay, so we were lucky enough to have assembly people and state senators who really were advocates for Parkland in the Bronx, and they were not going to even entertain a resolution to make a deal and reallocate this parkland. But there was a lot of confusion about that, and I just wanted to make sure that we all knew why this was not just another concession. Okay, so the state really does not want the amount of parkland in the state of New York to change. Okay, and that is almost an inviolate, sovereign decision, and that's pretty cool that we would be safeguarded by our government. And that they also have adopted a doctrine, what's known as public trust, that land held by the state cannot be, and by any corporation, that is a municipal corporation or a government, no corporation can decide to reallocate that without the express will of the people in the form of the legislature. I actually wanted to read you that. This was really interesting to me. Give me a second. The public trust doctrine. In its streets, wharves, cemeteries, hospitals, courthouses, public buildings, public parks, the municipality has no rights distinct from the trust for the public. It holds them for public use, and to no other use can they be appropriated without special legislative sanction. So this to me was a reminder just of how much our legislature is the guardian of our public land and how much we need to remind ourselves about the precious resource that we have as a people over this significant portion of our city and our parkland. I also wanted to bring up something, I forgot to put my little term here, but a lot of people were wondering, does it matter if it's temporary? Okay, that this was going to be a use of the public, a non-public use of public parkland for only 6 months to build, have the event, and then deconstruct. It does not matter that it's temporary. And that decision was made by the judge that decided the case of the Friends of Van Cortlandt Park, thank you, Jane, versus the city of New York for the use of the Croton filtration. Okay, so any temporary use, okay, still needs legislative approval. And lastly, I thought it was fascinating that a lot of this concept of alienation includes the requirement that if a municipality was to alienate by decree of the state legislature, they must substitute, okay? And that is a legacy of environmental law. In fact, EPA is the one that, or environmental quality laws, created that requirement for substitution. So this to me were very powerful reminders of why we're here, what environmentalism has done. And also, we're really afraid that with pressure to develop and to seek concession income, that places like Van Cortlandt Park or Van Cortlandt Park itself can be subject to another invitation by, let's say, the executive branch of the city of New York to bring outside private people into our parks. So we really thought we wanted to double down and take a moment to really express our rights as people and the environmental protections we have over our parkland. It almost happened. We were very close. In fact, we were positive we were going to end up in litigation over this. And we were preparing for that. And it's just because people out there really knew the law and helped elected officials get up to speed with that we did it. So I just wanted to make sure that that was summer not wasted. And besides, it introduced us to our wonderful new friends from the Lunaape Nation that you're going to hear from later, because we really didn't understand what a jewel that Van Cortlandt Park has become. I also want to say that as we hear about new proposals to monetize our public parkland and our volunteer labor, we need to be distinguished between what the mayor was proposing and a concession, okay? And generally, the Parks Department always should be the one to generate a concession, Okay, it's the Parks Department that decides what a concession is. It's the Parks Department that decides who is a concessionaire. They ask for ideas and they have very clear standards for what they want from a concession. There's about 400 of them throughout the city of New York, and most of them are what you would expect for comfort stations, for food, cafes, things like that, perhaps for recreation. So nothing outside recreational use that everyone can enjoy. Okay, so I just wanted to make sure that we all were learned from this. I certainly did. It restored our original purpose that we have had as an organization, which is to preserve our parkland. We've done it before. We've gone to court before. Because we even believe in designation of parkland when it's implied. Okay, so I definitely want to hear your lessons. To me, it was an incredible wake-up call for understanding that volunteers and nonprofits could form a constituency that were heard loud and clear. And we hope to amplify this at Speak Up. So I'm just going to stop for a minute. Next, and the questions, and then I want to talk a little bit about MTA. Right, nothing? Any lesson that you had? Yeah, Daniel, yeah.
Is this referred to both city and state-owned land?
The state, you're talking about the alienation concept? Yeah. Yes, it does, yes. All right, thanks, Dan. All right, yeah.
How does alienation fit into a repurposing for the common good that's not commercial?
Yeah, okay. So you will still need to, good question, Louis, thank you. So if you are going to use a park for energy generation, a cell phone tower, according to the state, that is a alienation. Okay. The only thing that wouldn't require alienation is something that was used for recreational purposes. So the things that they suggest are non-alienations would be anything that is merely licensed and permitted on an ongoing basis. Okay, a boat rental service, things like that. That does not require alienation. Okay, and a permit for park facility usage or special program, like a fair or something that does not require that the public is invited to, does not require alienation. But what I also want, the reason I did bring this up is because with many new renewable energy permits being issued, there are a lot of demand for places to put new energy transmission lines. Parks could be subject to that. And I really were always looking forward to the next fight. This one came at us a little unexpected, but we do, with the city's need for revenue, we do expect more proposals, quote unquote, outside the box.
You have 1 minute.
Okay, all right. So I want to talk a little bit about MTA. Yeah, so MTA was supposed to be our summer project. MTA controls a railroad between West 230th Street and 225th Street in Marble Hill. It was originally supposed to be the extension of the Putnam Greenway, which currently is built from Van Cortlandt Park and ends at 230th. We're in a little tussle with them over whether this is actually an active railroad. But I wanted to raise the issue again of public land in the borough of the Bronx, because just as Parkland is our public estate, MTA property occupies a huge swath of property in the borough of the Bronx. And there are, Karen, I'm going to be out of time. I was going to list all our yards. Okay. And all the railroads. Okay. And when you think about it, between the yards, the stations, and the railroads, MTA is a major property owner and stakeholder in the land use of the Bronx. They have started now to adopt two things. Okay, one of them is a resilience plan. And the reason I'm bringing this up today to you is to tell you that BCEQ has written letters of support for MTA's plans to make their train yards, which occupy, again, lots of square footage and vulnerable floodplain neighborhoods, to make them more resilient. And what we said to them so far is that you are looking to protect your property, that's great, from climate change impacts, but you are also a source of flooding for your neighboring communities. So you have got to adopt a community plan to make sure that whatever's happening on your property is maintained in situ, because they are huge generators of runoff, because there's so much impervious surface there. So that's been our approach. But we're also looking for MTA's innovation about how they will keep our railroads and their massive train yards. We don't want resilience plan, which they are now embarking on a 20-year needs assessment, you may have heard this week. And we don't want them to be more deserts within what we had planned for a green Bronx. Okay, so we're gonna really make sure that MTA hears from us about this notion of resilience. And I did want to say that they are building 3 new stations in the East Bronx. There are public hearings scheduled for community. They are using a community engagement strategy to plan these new stations. We're going to make sure you know about these. They're coming up next week so that you can get involved in planning this new future for MTA. But we would like them to be a partner in the greening of the Bronx. So I'm out of time, right, Karen? Thanks. Okay.
So we did run a little bit long, but what we were gonna do was eat, but we've done that already. So why don't we go around the room and say who we are?
Good.
Whoever hasn't been introduced yet. Well, yeah. And then at 8 o'clock, we're gonna start again. We have 10 minutes.
Hi. Hi, I'm Carrie Chauncy. I'm a curator and writer. My work is focused on ecological thinking and practice. And currently I'm working with City is Living Laboratory as a consultant, which is the main reason I'm here tonight. Sorry, I'll just speak for 1 minute if that's okay. Along with Dart Westfall, who's a co-organizer, we are having a gathering on October 26th. That is 2 weeks from tomorrow at Manhattan College in the alumni room in the library, which will focus on the work that City is Living Laboratory has been doing over the past 4 or 5 years in the Bronx related to Tibbetts Brook and the daylighting of Tibbetts Brook, which I'm sure this entire room knows about. And the event will be 3 to 7 p.m. There'll be quite a few people in this room involved. We will be focusing the event on gathering ideas and feedback and thinking about ways to shape Call's programs moving forward. And we'll also be presenting the 5 commissioned projects that Call has been working on with artists around Tibbetts Brook over the past few years. And one of the highlights of the gathering will be a performance by a Bronx-based artist, Kamala Sankaram, who created a sound walk through Van Cortlandt Park. And following all of this, at 6:30, there'll be a community dinner. It's free, it's open to the public. I really hope that you can all join us because you are all the people that we would really love to have in the room. And I brought some just flyers, very shoddily made, I apologize, but I'll just pass them around so everyone can take one. Yeah, so thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We know Bob.
Bob, I just wanted to make sure we said thank you to Fordham and the Center for Community Engagement. We are so happy to be here. Mark and Karen and Chauncy all created a relationship that's new and wonderful. We hope to grow it. And thank you very much for hosting us and being part of this. I've been on campus once to give the story of the Harlem River Greenway and daylighting to Fordham students, and we really hope to be more partners with wonderful Fordham students in the future.
I'm Dart Westfall. I'm sort of the retired long time ago president of BCEQ. And I just want to point out how many connections BCEQ has been able to pull together over the past 50 years of its existence. BCEQ was founded on the first Earth Day in 1971 or 1970, I forget. And since then, everything from City as a Living Laboratory to Fordham University to Bronx River Alliance have had some connection to BCEQ. The Greenway Plan for the borough, the Tour de Bronx, the Bronx Park Speak Up, all have some connection with BCEQ. And if you look at the BCEQ website, bceq.org, you will see lots and lots of things that I forgot that the 2013 open space plan is just there. The whole list is there. I just looked it up. The website really does, tell you what's been going on. And it's just a wonderful thing to be involved with the group so long and to see everything that's happened. There's like at least 6 things on that list that have actually happened. In 2013. Yeah, we'll talk about that.
I sent you the list.
Yeah, it's really fun to watch. So anyway, that's who I am.
Joyce, another old president. I'm not old, but. They're all sitting together. Look, they're all sitting together.
Joyce Hoagie, our past president.
Yes.
Right. And board member.
And longtime Bronx resident.
Yes.
Leader of the Four Bronx Park Alliance. Absolutely.
Jenn Beaugrand, I'm the founder and the executive director of the Bronx is Blooming, board member and Bronx resident.
Hi, I'm Marina Stern, Mark Stern's daughter. I'm a recent graduate of UC Berkeley in landscape architecture and environmental planning. And I just moved back from California, so I'm excited to be here. And it's really interesting to hear all about the projects that are going on.
Good job. Mark Stern, I'm on the BCEQ Education Committee. I also happen to be a Fordham graduate, 82. I'll pass it back.
I'll go first. Louis Kleiman, originally I was working with the Waterfront Alliance. Now I have my own consulting firm, and I have been working in the environment with a concentration on our waterways for over 40 years.
I'm Chrissy Word. I'm a naturalist, environmental science educator, and an advocate for wildlife in New York City. I work at City Parks Foundation, and I co-founded the Pollinator Working Group and Butterfly Project New York City, which is going to celebrate its 20th year next year.
And she's a recent winner of our education award.
Proudly.
Paul?
I am Paul Mankiewicz. I was drafted by Teresa Laytow to be in this group. Here I am. I basically build ecological features that make a difference for carbon capture and treating water, and also we're carrying a lot of pieces with the stormwater capture system in the city, the first green roof in the Bronx, first full-scale industrial stormwater zero discharge stormwater catchment on the Bronx River. So basically, I across the street learned how to grow whole ecosystems in serum bottles, and I decided that was too small. So now trying the city.
Paul is a biogeochemist.
Daniel Renaud, he, him, I'm the Director of Programs and Operations at the Bronx River Alliance, which exists thanks to the work of folks in here and board member of BCEQ.
Isla Mesa, I work for the New York Power Authority, and I'm just here to meet everyone and to hear your priorities for the park. Jenn Sokolow, I'm on the board of BCEQ. I'm also on the board of the Natural Areas Conservancy. I guess I can call myself a longtime Bronx resident now, can I? I keep an eye on the West Bronx.
I hold down the east.
Right. I'm Karen Argenti. I'm the secretary of BCEQ and on the board, obviously, and do a lot of this other kind of work that you see going on. Yes, and Adam?
How you doing, folks? So I'm Adam. I'm the Assistant Director of Fordham's Center for Community Engaged Learning. Our offices are right downstairs. We love this space. I've seen Milka Martell speak a couple of times here, and so great bringing so many cool folks into the room. I'll try to really quickly. The center has only existed for about 5 years, but in a former iteration, it was called the Dorothy Day Center. Sandra Lobo, I know some of you might know, was the director. So there's a long history of Fordham, engaging with the community. I didn't go to Fordham, but the first time I was at this, in this sort of this is the new building, the old building. I was 8 years old and the Bronx Arts Ensemble was having free concerts there. So I love that this university is a place where just, people from the community, like I was when I was 8, are able to make new connections, hear new things, etc. So engaged learning, we are very engaged. We're not just offering you space. We'd love to work with you. We'd, love to engage with you. And we already are working with some folks here. And I'll keep it at that since we gotta move on. So thanks for everyone for being here in our home.
Alexi?
Hi, everyone. I'm a new face. My name is Alexis Vasquez. I am a student and photographer turned video editor. One fun fact about me is I've been playing the clarinet for 6 years, and it's something that I really enjoy.
And Alexi is one of our interns working on the Harlem River Working Group and helping us, talk to community people on green infrastructure and energy conservation stuff. But he does the videos.
Great feed.
Yes.
Thank you. Working on it, yeah.
Yes.
New skill I picked up out of the blue, so yeah.
Do a good
Great.
job.
So the next meeting, you gotta bring the clarinet.
Yeah. Little jazz session, okay. No pressure, I'm done.
Good idea. All right.
Yeah.
And Jeff?
I spoke a lot already, but again, I'm Jeffrey Laufer. I'm second meeting here, brand new employee also of Con Edison, but not new to the Bronx. And I neglected to mention that we also give funding to the Bronx River Alliance. Don't hold that against me that I forgot to.
City Parks Foundation.
You have me doing my.
Yes. Like I said, there's 600 organizations that we help out with grants in some way or another, so.
I'm Stuart DeGrove, Ramapough-Lunaape Nation, right on the territory with it. First, I want to say thank you all for doing a very, very good job down there. The Van Cortlandt Park issue, I think that was great that everybody stood up and joined together. And that was just the first step of them taking something away.
My name's Dennis DeFries. I'm Lenny Indian from New Jersey.
It's okay.
But I used to work with Judy Zolikoff, who was professor from NYU. I'd done all the testing and lab testing and dirt samples and all that stuff. So I worked for like 2 years with her students, helping them show them the territories.
Period, Ramapough-Lunaape, that would be the Sweetwater clan of the people of the mountain of Muncie's. You all are probably aware, recently working with the River Keepers, we were able to prevent 1 million gallons of nuclear waste from being dumped into the Hudson River. Currently, everything is so upbeat, I almost hate to bring my truce into the party. But we are now basically at the end of quiet genocide, and we're living in our original homeland. And we've been blessed to have some of it returned recently. Part of the message I wanted to share with everybody at some point is that we really need to all come together to really be able to save the water, the air, and the land. And the biggest enemy we have here, besides ignorance, greed.
You're gonna be the next speaker.
I have nothing to say.
I mean, I was gonna introduce you. If you wanna go up there and speak,
Oh, okay.
You have a break now, Karen? That's true.
Break
Get a break now?
Break down what?
No, we don't get a break.
No break.
Oh,
Break.
Yeah, we're running late.
Okay. Waramju, the Kiki, I Ben Nibukumakwa, Netelamapo, Wawashishi, Odui Demiwag, Ramapough-Lunaape. I'm Chief Perry of the Ramapough-Lunaape, as I just shared. We are approximately 2,500 people in the metropolitan area, perhaps at best 5,000 people nationally. Initially, as I had stated, we are the Sweetwater clan of the Munsey's, which is the people of the mountains, or what might be better known as the Wolf Clan of the Confederacy. Today, we live in the Ramapough Pass. Some of you, it's probably the best known secret, nationally known secret in the country. Literally, without my ancestors and the use of the Ramapough Pass, there would literally not be a New York, a New Jersey, or United States of America. Now, that's a pretty big mouthful for somebody we don't know who you are. But let me help with this. In the essence of this country, when George Washington and the boys were here standing against the British, they came to my ancestors for the use of the Ramapough Pass. The reason the Ramapough Pass is so important, that it was the back door to the New England colonies. Without the use of the Ramapough Pass, the only way that the British could reinforce their troops was off the Atlantic or march them down through Canada. By essentially stationing 5,000 French troops in the Ramapough Pass, it eliminated any strategic advantage and or surprise. From that day to this, it might be interesting that the day that the American Revolution was ensured, Mr. Washington, the person that never tells a lie, the first act he did was attempt to enslave my ancestors. They have been resisting from then till now, where there was many, many thousands of us throughout the land, in the mountains of the Adirondacks and the foothills, for barely 5,000 people nationally. On to the more favorable things. I am so glad to hear all the great work you guys are doing. Just recently, we had the Tahitiway return to, as many of you might know, the Split Rock. It's a sacred portal. It's aligned with Pleiades. There's 7 such sites in the world. One is in Australia. It's also called Split Rock, the English term for it. There's one in North Dakota and Arizona and South America. And I haven't been able to determine it yet, but I also believe Mount Sinai might also be one of the sites. I'd like to verify that before I share that too far. Anyway, how we come up on it was one day, we were having a meeting much like this, and some gentlemen came into the room. None of them spoke English, but they had interpreters, and they all had on their traditional clothing. They were from the mountaintop in Colombia. And they shared a very heavy-duty story about the Tahitiway Split Rock. My first thought, being a native New Yorker, essentially was, geez, I'm not Harry Potter. And then we found out they shared a number of items about the area that even perhaps 1 or 2% of the Ramapoughs themselves knew. So we took it serious from that day till now. We've been working forward to make energize the mountain a sacred place. Just last week, we're honored to have an international ceremony where we honored all 7 continents of the world and all of the 7 peoples of the world. We go forward to save it. So we would like to make Split Rock, the Tahitiway, a World Heritage Site. And we're currently in the process of doing that. Where we always are, we've been working with the New Jersey Conservancy Trail Conference, and also we were looking at Harriman Park to connect Harriman Park with the New Jersey Trail Conference and New Jersey Conservancy. We're right on the border. We're on the border of New York and New Jersey. We'd like to make that real, but the issue now is, and perhaps I'm hoping that some of you here can share some insight going forward, as the Ramapough themselves are facing quiet genocide, so are the mountains. We live in the very entrance to the Ramapough Pass. And up until the last few years, it was fine. But what we're looking at now is greed. we're looking at now extreme greed. We are under pressure to destroy the entire mountain, put condos up on it. We're being pressured to allow to change zoning. So what we really need is people that are looking on to say, what are we doing? But once we preserve it, and we will certainly open up the trail conference. We'll open it up to the rest of our people. We're looking forward right now to working with our relatives out of Tibet to put a shrine on the mountainside. Some other people. So what does that leave us? Like I said, I'm a little remiss because you guys have such wonderful news, and I'm going to go, well, we're about to destroy the entire mountain. I can tell you this, without the Ramapough Pass again, there will be no New York, no New Jersey, no United States. You would have thought on its own, governments of New York and New Jersey, the governments of the United States would themselves would have stepped in, made the entire Ramapough Pass some type of historical site. I realize it's 12 miles long. It runs from the New York, New Jersey border up to probably some of you know Burlington Coats, which is about 12 miles north of Monroe. They sell, you know, all the brand name stuff. But I would think that if we lose the Tahitaway, if we lose Torn Mountain, if we lose the Ramapough Pass itself, we're going to lose a giant piece of American culture. And the sad thing is, the Ramapough people themselves are a part of that land, and we too are facing, as I said, quiet genocide. It's insanity. So I apologize for bringing sort of this down message. But in reality, you guys are some of the most important people in the world. That's what you're protecting. You're protecting not just the water, the land, and the air. You're protecting the people of the water, the people of the land, the people of the air. You're looking over our children, the four-legged, the crawlers, the flyers, the swimmers. Without you guys looking forward, there would be no more grandmother Earth. There'd be no more life. So I would just like to give you my thanks, my condolence, and even offer up a prayer perhaps before I leave to say thank you to each and every one of you. Thank you. Questions? You have any questions? Sure.
Any questions?
I'm
Sure.
from New Jersey. I went to Hackensack High School.
Alrighty, so you know.
Yeah. Or Sam.
Absolutely.
Where
Tom,
where
yeah.
exactly is the land? The
Okay.
mountain that you're-
You know, do you know where the Sheridan is as you go up Route 17?
Yeah.
That's actually on the New York, New Jersey border. The mountain is the mountain overlooking the Sheridan. And actually, when you're up there, you can look down here and see this. I was up there not long ago with somebody that was fairly wealthy, and they wanted to go around and see Indians, and I took them someplace else. So we're going down the hill. You'll love this. We're going down the hill, and the guy jumps out my car. He runs over. He's standing on a rock, and he's looking over, and he goes, "Whoa, what a power spot for a home." I could have hit him with a rock. But that's sort of what we're looking at. And it's convenient to be as racist as possible about everything, because it's really not about racism anymore. It's about land and money and getting rid of you. And right now, we are feared they want to take the trees down, put up condos, if not more homes. We already lived through a really interesting thing. I would call it, this is different, but I would call it Jim Crow or tuxedo on. Recently, last couple of years, the local township changed the zone. Everybody in the tribe had 3-4 acres of land to give to your kids. They can build a house. We all got 2-3 bedroom homes. Township changed the zoning. You must have 5 acres to build a house. Okay. Everybody liquidated. Once everybody liquidated their property, they changed the zoning back to 1 acre per house. Now who's up there? McMansion world. And you people can now move. So anyway,
Which town?
that would be Morwell, by the way, which is named after Ake Ende Mawe Long, the place where the people gather. Anyway, upbeat questions. I apologize for this. I was over here being happy and
We'll follow up.
Yes.
Definitely.
absolutely. Yes, sir.
I wanted to come out as a New Jersey kid myself. I don't think I've ever said this. I'm giving you courage. I did. Check the bylaw. Check the bylaw.
Oh, okay. So we're all homeboys here. This is,
I spent my childhood hiking in the rainforest.
so you know.
And I know it very well. Is the municipality, your antagonist right now? Is it the county? Who is proposing this? And is
Right now, I think it's like the Village of Hillburn, which is in New York State. It appears the new authorities in Morwell have changed completely. They're different people, but I can tell you a few years ago, they were busy little bees. Right now, it's a different mayor, sort of a different mindset.
So my recollection is that Mawa was one of the first to invite corporate parks.
Right.
Right, when they were building the highway, grew up with the 287 pound. Yep. And they were always quote unquote ahead of the curve inviting this. So this sounds like their playbook now.
Well, yeah. Well, it was for sure up till now, for sure. Probably still is.
Right, we're on board. We are your friends.
We have a place also. We got another, I think it's 13.9 acres, not very big. It's in the center. We're the largest landowners in the place they've called the Polo Club. And the interesting thing is the people or the builders or somebody in there took 10 to 15,000 yards of topsoil off of our land and put it on their yard. So now our land actually, until we had a couple swimming pool sized tubs that would flood out. So our land would flood out from the inside out to the river. And that's where we actually had a longhouse and had done ceremonies for, not just for our own people, but for people all over the country, including Standing Rock. So it's sort of been an ongoing process. Yes, sir. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I am wondering if I did some work up in Orange County for years, and I'm wondering there's a lawyer I was an extra witness for, Michael Sussman.
Oh, I know. Yeah, Michael, yes.
Is he helping you guys or?
We haven't reached out to him, but thank you for reminding me because he definitely has.
He would love to do this.
Yeah.
I was a Clean Water Act witness for him. Actually, we won the Orange County lawsuit against the county years back. I was a witness in that, but that would definitely, I think he's pretty good, as you know. It's just.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for reminding me. Yeah, Michael's really a great guy. Sure.
I was wondering, the split rock that you're referring to, is that the one in Helen Bay Park?
No, it's up on top of the hill right across from you can see it. You'll see it now. The leaves coming off across from the Sheridan.
It's in your area.
Yeah, when I was growing up, the women used to go up there and do ceremonies, and I used to say, "Well, where's everybody going?" And the answer was, "They're doing Indian stuff." That's code for shut up and mind your own business. And then later on, I think it was around the mid 60s, maybe around 65, they started burning crosses up there. So you could see the cross from down here. And so people backed it up. And then in recent years, I call it beer bottle heaven. I was up there, it looked like people used to go up there and drink and bust beer bottles. But in the last, I guess going on 4 years now, we've been up there doing a lot of cleanup, a lot of ceremony, a lot of prayers. As I said last week, we literally invited all of our relatives from around the earth and all of you guys come up and just be in a good way. Just be the person you are.
New Jersey Trail Conference.
Right.
Do they have a trail in that area? Trail maps?
Not yet. They've been helping us, but I'm going to go to them and ask them to actually help me make a better way up the mountain because
If that area were
still got to hike up
mapped
there.
out as a recreational trail, that
Right.
could help protect it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I'm hoping. We can make the trail connect with Harriman State Park.
I'm a member of that organization.
Oh,
I don't know
already
if
then.
I could look into that.
Okay, we got to, of course, I did what Indians do. I got my cards in the car, but I'll take one of yours, But yeah, that's the thought, to be able to connect the Harriman and that in a good way. So people can use it, access it. Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned earlier an organization that I think is really great that might be helpful called the Open Space Institute. Are you in contact with them?
No, I'm really being quite enlightened here, because I'm going, wow, so many of these
Yeah,
wonderful
Space
people
Institute
working,
does a lot with not only purchasing land in the state of New York, but also getting easement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they work up in that area.
Yeah, they preserved a lot of sterling forest.
Yeah.
Not just New York,
Right, I mean, they're in the south too, but.
well, yeah, Jersey's a little south.
Yeah,
you
no,
know.
no, but they were traditionally the greater metro area, now they work in, the south and in the Adirondacks and a lot of
You might at least
places.
be able to get to preserve some of it.
Yeah.
There's gonna be some like mansions and stuff.
Oh, yeah, well, there already are.
Right, so whatever's left, you gotta find somebody that could pay for it, no, SI might.
Yeah, absolutely, but I'm just saying, I think the most important thing is the intent and being able to share that knowledge, and we can maybe put some people together to make things happen. One of the things I always tell people, in general, is, which preserves life, is just be kind. Just be kind every day. A little bitty thing is somebody answer to somebody's prayer. I think a drop of knowledge to the right person could be the answer to a major gift to preserving things. And,
I'm gonna ring the bell.
all righty.
Got it. Thank
Thank you, guys.
Now we have an announcement from Alexi, and then we're done.
So,
Unless there are other announcements that people want to make about events coming up.
City of Forest Days on Saturday. I'll be out at Pelham Bay Park with the stewards. Anybody wants to come by, we're gonna be working in the forest.
Okay.
so I do have an announcement. We need volunteers for Wednesday and Friday from 9 to 1 at our canoeing event.
Next Wednesday? Yes.
Yes, next Wednesday.
18th and the 20th,
Mhm.
and then the 21st,
Right, on the Saturday
Saturday, we need
from 11 to 6.
11 to 6. And then on Sunday,
Yes, no, Sunday,
Sunday is the bike thing,
Tour de France, yes.
Tour de France,
Yes,
Tour
we
de
need
France.
volunteers for that
Tour de
day.
France.
Yeah.
Tour de France.
That's the Harlem
Let's
River.
sign me up.
It's on the
Yeah.
Harlem River
That's
in,
it.
at Roberto Clemente State Park. And we have, we need volunteers because we have probably 200 middle school students that go in a big canoe that takes 10 children at a time. It's like many of them, the first time that they're in the water, you should see their faces, they're like. And so we need activity on the land because there's a lot of times that it's limited to how many students we can get in the boats at the time, in the canoes. And also the free canoe rides for the community on Saturday. Children have to have their parents with them. On the 18th. On the 20th, 21st.
And then, yeah.
The 18th and the, sorry,
Wednesday
18th.
and Friday are
Wednesday
school
and Friday,
days.
right, our school days,
Saturday's open to the public,
right.
and Sunday as well.
Sunday.
And then Sunday is the bike tour.
And Tour de Bronx was also our idea, just so you know.
That was really catchy. I like that.
All right, and so do we want to say a nice prayer? You can say it from there. Oh, I think we can hear you.
Yeah, all righty. To continue our plan. We ask in a good way, in a beauty way, that all may be touched with your love and your light. Yes, that all may have good balance and good judgment. And walk forward. And we may know that we are guardians of the water, the sea, and the air, and the people, the water, the sea, and the air. All truly related, with one mind and one heart. Thanks and ask to may have mercy to your promise. Hope that you will be.
Thanks, everybody.
So we have a fall festival at Crotona on Saturday, but I'm thinking it might be canceled due to rain. Oh, it looks like lots of rain again this weekend.